Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. You guys, appreciate you guys and all your support and everything. If you guys could like, that'd be great. Subscribe, that'd be even better. And then also, if you could do that for the WQM YouTube page, watch me and Leroy every single weekday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That would be absolutely fantastic. So, a little bit of snubbery over at the NFL Awards ceremony. Tua Tagovailoa, not comeback player of the year this year. That went to Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was your winner for the comeback player of the year. In fact, according to AP writer Rob Madai, Tagovailoa finished 5th in the voting with 21 votes. So I don't know where the actual end results were. I would have imagined that it would have been Flacco, Demar Hamlin, Baker Mayfield probably in there, somebody, and then Tua. The thing I would just want to say to this, I don't really care about Tua winning comeback player of the year or not winning comeback player of the year, but here I go making the argument of him winning comeback player of the year. Joe Flacco said this, right? And I think the big part of it was they were going at this with Demar Hamlin because everybody knows what an incredible thing it was that Demar Hamlin went through and, ended up becoming, with everything that he went through, game getting canceled, and made it all the way back. Crazy story that he was able to come back, play football, but he was not a very productive player this year for the Buffalo Bills. The fact that the victory is that he just got out there and played football. So I think everybody was kind of under the impression that that was going to be a thing that had him as the winner this year, but it was not. In fact, it went to Joe Flacco, who is 39, old as hell, and really just got to go out there and play willy-nilly because you really thought, like, when we saw the first footage of Joe Flacco and he was, on the coach traveling to Cleveland, that he would go out there and, to have this kind of a run where he gets to the playoffs. It was a really, really cool story. No one's denying that it was really, really cool. I have the results here, by the way. It was, the results were Joe Flacco, Demar Hamlin was second, Baker Mayfield was third, Stafford fourth, and then Tua. And I got to tell you, the idea that Tua is last out of all these guys, because I just want to remind everybody, with Tua, this is the thing that's kind of crazy about it. The whole story of last off season, we can't lose perspective of this. Was he actually going to play football? Was it smart for this guy to go out there and play football? People were talking about the Dolphins being charged with crimes for allowing him to go out there and play concussed. And he had multiple concussions last year. The guy went out there and took martial arts to make sure this wasn't an issue. So he actually, was in game battling the issue. And out of all of these guys, had the best season. He was the NFL's leading passer. And so, I'm sorry. There's no argument against Demar Hamlin. He came back from death. But he was not a real productive player this year. So if we're going to talk about who came back from the hardest thing, obviously Demar Hamlin is one. Joe Flacco came back from being old AF and really didn't play all of the year. Baker Mayfield came back from being kind of mediocre to bad and just the Carolina Panthers. And so, on top of that, you have Matthew Stafford, who had Tommy John surgery, I think, or something with, I don't even remember what he had, elbow surgery. He's old. He only got so many throws in there. So, I'm not upset that Tua lost the Comeback Player of the Year award, but I do find it kind of kooky that a guy who people were like squeamish about even playing football, they're like, I don't know if you should do this anymore. And then remember when Tua came out, he was like, hey, I did give it a little bit of thought that I wasn't going to come back anymore. And for him to finish last out of all these guys, out of all the finalists, that's pretty crazy if you think about that. He has the best production out of any of them, and had the second most adverse situation where he was stretchered off a field. Everybody was terrified, missed a quarter of the season, came back, then got concussed in another game, and everybody was like, career over? Career over? And that is a 24-year-old dealing with that, not an old person like Matthew Stafford, and not a very old person in Joe Flacco. And are they like, what is their age difference? Because am I making like Joe Flacco a lot older than Matthew Stafford? Because I just feel like I'm doing that naturally, and I don't know if that's fair to Joe Flacco. No. Matthew Stafford is 36. Okay, so I was not unfair. And then, Baker Mayfield is like, oh, he's come back, but he kind of kicked around for a couple of years. So I'm just saying, it's a little bit wonky to me that Tua Tagovailoa had the best stats out of all of these guys, and they're just kind of like, yeah. That whole concussion thing, we made a big deal out of it, but whatever. Because the next time, here's the thing that's crazy about it, though. If Tua ever does get his bell rung again, and he does ever get concussed again, everyone's going to be chirping for his career to end again. That they're going to say, no, Tua, you can't go out in football anymore. Too dangerous, Tua. You can't do it. The man took jiu-jitsu to fix this issue. And then on top of it, his football was also very, very productive. I don't want to have the discussion about, is your franchise quarterback, should you pay him? But forget that. I'm talking about, let's just talk about the straight up credentials of the year. Okay. And these quarterbacks, he was better than all of them. And the only one who tops him in harrowing comebacks is Demar Hamlin, who suffered cardiac arrest and seemingly had his life revived on a field. But you're either going to go with that being the most, the craziest story, or you're not. And to say that Tua didn't have a wilder comeback than Joe Flacco is stupid. Joe Flacco was basically got to go out there and play, lob it up there the entirety of his tenure. And then what do you know? It came to an end with him being Joe Flacco. But because the Browns are a really solid team all around, it's just like, who cares? Also in the snubbery was Tyreek Hill, who finished behind Christian McCaffrey for Offensive Player of the Year. Christian McCaffrey had 2,000 yards and 21 touchdowns this year. The one thing I would say with Christian McCaffrey, and it is a great year, don't get me wrong. I mean, they both played 16 games. Okay, so what's fair is fair there. But I'm splitting hairs here. I'm less confused about this than the Comeback Player of the Year award. But it was just interesting to see. And then also, like Christian McCaffrey, he had the same amount of touchdowns as Raheem Mostert did. And Raheem Mostert, what did he do? Raheem Mostert did that in, was it 15 games? Raheem Mostert? And yes, the yards are not there, but touchdowns, samesies. And also played and did the same amount of touchdowns in one less game than Christian McCaffrey. Something's a little bit up there, I got to tell you. What was the final MVP ballot, by the way? Let's see. Where do we have here? Lamar Jackson was our final winner. And by the way, speaking of the honors, the really, really cool to see that two Hurricanes got in. Devin Hester got into the Hall of Fame, which is Goosey's, and then so did Andre Johnson. Reggie Wayne did not. He's upset. So Lamar Jackson wins. Josh Allen had a first-place vote, but he was fifth overall. Dak Prescott was second. McCaffrey third. Brock Purdy was fourth. And I believe Tyreek Hill was sixth. I get it. San Francisco, best team in the NFC for most of the year. And I have less of an issue with this as Tua. I think the thing, I don't have an issue with either one of them losing. I have an issue with Christian McCaffrey. I have an issue with Tua finishing 5th in Comeback Player of the Year award behind all the players that he did. And I just think that Christian McCaffrey, like, because he's a running back, I don't know, a diverse running back. He's not just purely that. He does everything, which you could put to his, but, you know, the receiver is looked upon as always having to be reliant in all of this stuff. And I do feel like Tyreek Hill is just at a different level than every other wide receiver as far as how scared he makes other defenses. But ultimately, you know, look, all great players, fun stuff. And, you know, now you just hope for the Dolphins standpoint, like Christian McCaffrey gets to play in the Super Bowl this week. So that could be his ultimate mic drop moment. But I don't know why I drop it. I have a microphone literally right here where I could just do. But, you know, then you have to hear that clanking sound. It's kind of annoying for you guys. What was I saying? Anyway, Christian McCaffrey ultimately has the trump card. He's in the Super Bowl this weekend. Tyreek Hill and Tua, they both went home in week 1, so I'm just being a big baby bellyacher. But I have nothing else right now. I'm lonely. I'm lonely and with no Dolphins football, and the Super Bowl is this weekend.